Tracy.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good.
We're a little early, but our pump truck is getting ready to get out. So, but I want people to see what a pump truck looks like. So can you do me a favor and just kind of walk me through? Again, guys, my name is Lowell Pinnock. I'm your host on IGTV Live with America's Home Place with Tracy Greer, my project manager here in the Alvin location. So Tracy, go ahead and show me.
Well, this is probably one of the bigger ones because we had a long reach on this one. So.
Okay.
But that all unravels, straightens out where you can pump about 100 feet or so.
This is a big vehicle.
And hoppers on the back here where the concrete goes in. Cement trucks back up to here, dump in there, and then it pumps it all the way out through those chutes to where you need to go.
I know this is quick, but tell us what is the purpose of a pump truck?
When you can't get concrete trucks up around your slab,
Okay.
and do what we call tailgating,
Okay.
then you have to have a pump truck.
Walk that way.
And a lot of times it's because your slab's too big, you can't get tailgate into the center of the slab. A lot of times it's because the slab's too high, like this one.
Okay.
You can't back up to it. And a lot of times it's just a whole lot easier to pump it. A little more expensive,
A little bit more.
but you can get your concrete where you want it to go, and the finishers love it a whole lot more. So.
Okay, I'm gonna flip this camera around to talk to the pump truck driver. How you doing?
Pretty good.
How long you been pumping?
A couple of years, I think too long.
Too long?
Yeah, too long.
What's been your biggest challenge as far as access?
And every day's a challenge. Every day's a challenge.
Let me ask you this way. Your vehicle helps our contractors get the concrete out the trucks and into those foam boards. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, what's your name, sir?
Eric Cascades.
Nice to meet you, sir. And we thank you for your service.
Okay.
Thank you. Hang on, guys. Stop at a ticket.
No, I got the ticket.
Okay.
I'll send you 2 pictures. I just need your number.
Okay. All right, guys. Tracy's talking to the the pump truck guy, and we'll be back momentarily. Hopefully, you guys are having a great day. We have great weather here in Texas. We are actually about 60 degrees, which is totally abnormal for this time of year. We call this month Sweat October, and I don't know what November will bring, but hopefully we'll get down to cooler temperatures. Again, we are here today to discuss site improvements and land costs. And we're actually at an active job site in Alvin. We're actually on 4080 County Road 326 in Alvin, Texas. We just recently poured a slab, and what Tracy's going to demonstrate and explain to us today is what is all involved with site improvements. Why do we need site costs in our budgets whenever we're building a new home? What most people fail to factor, I'm waiting for this truck to pass through, it's a big rig. What most people fail to factor when they're establishing a budget to build a new home is what are the costs that takes place outside of designing the plan from a fit and functionality standpoint. How do we actually acclimate the house that we design on our property? And so without further ado, I'm going to flip this camera around again. Again, we're in the Alvin location, and every site is different. And so what you want to do is you want to go to our website, americashomeplace.com, and if you're interested in finding out more about your specific site improvements in your specific area, you can punch in your zip code and get the office's phone number and get in contact with a building consultant or general manager or project manager in that location or at that location. So, Tracy, you ready?
Ready.
All right, Tracy. We're here again on IGT Live
All right.
We talked about the pump truck kind of in short because he was getting ready to drive off. But what is, as a project manager, when you're out doing your site investigation meeting, which is, by the way, one of the first meetings that takes place post the plan design and preliminary pricing, what is some of the things that you look for on a build site?
Well, the thing that I always tell people is I'm here for two reasons. Number one reason is to get your house situated on the property the way you want it, find out what that is, where you want to go with it. And then number two reason I'm here is to look at the site allowance numbers now that I'm on the property and can see what all we're going to have to deal with, where your power's at. Once we've got it staked out on the property where you want to go, then I can take measurements to power poles, and then we can firm up and nail down site allowance costs. So
Okay.
and then the other reason that we're there staking the property is because we're pretty much immediately then jumping to a soils test and getting that company out to drill that site and get our soils test rolling so that we can get all the engineering going, and because there's quite a bit of time that all has to occur in. So
Okay, so we're standing on a driveway right now, right, or an entryway.
yep.
I see something kind of curtailing outside here. Some people know what culverts are. Some people don't. So why don't you go over there and show us what's going on here?
Well, this is an example of an open ditch lot here. You've just got open ditches on the side of the road. Some of them are going to be a little shallow. Some of them are going to be a lot deeper. It just depends. But in most cases, you're going to need round concrete pipe culverts to access the property and get through that ditch. So most of the counties will determine and let you know what size pipe you need to put there. And then we just get it, and then like in Brazoria County here, we just get it out here to the job site. They actually set the pipes.
Okay.
They're in control of that, but the builder has to get them out here. So stake off where they want them to go.
So part of that site cost, land improvement cost, includes getting the dirt to cover these culverts so that you have passage to the property, onto the property.
Right.
Well, how wide is this driveway or entryway at this
I
point?
think this buyer actually bought his own culverts and
Okay.
had them out here, but I think he's about 24 feet wide.
Okay, can you pause just for a minute? That's another thing too. If there's some expenses that you have the capacity to take on, from a liquidity standpoint, you have that options. But you want to make sure that you contact your specific build site location to confirm that. But in our office, as Tracy just mentioned, the homeowner actually had the culverts, purchased the culverts and had them set, and we brought in the dirt to get us passage onto the build site. So how wide is this driveway again? Because that was a big truck.
Yeah.
You got a lot of high, big vehicles passing through. Is that correct? So you want to make sure that you have a wide enough entryway to...
It all depends on the homeowner and what kind of vehicles they're planning to be taken in and out of. If they've got big trailers that they're trying to back up in here, then the wider the culverts they can get, the better. It makes it easier to turn those in.
Excellent.
If it's just regular passenger vehicles, 20 feet of culverts, more than enough. But if you've got big trailers, and I think this guy's got a fifth wheel,
Wow, yeah.
backs in, so he wants a little bit wider space and it's not falling off the edge.
All right. Well, why don't you take us on to the property, sir?
Well, always once we get over the ditches, we've got to get up to the job site.
That's very important, huh?
So, and especially if the weather gets bad, we've got to have some accessible way up to the job site. So,
Okay, can you define what job site is?
Where we're building our slab area there.
Hopefully, guys, you can see that. Yeah.
So in this case, I really don't like putting the construction drives in until we've got the slab poured, because you saw that big piece of machinery
Yes.
coming in here. If I'd done a nice construction drive and built it up and put crushed concrete on it, it would have just drove it all into the ground. So
It would have compacted it for sure,
in
right?
this case, we put a bunch of lime down on the natural ground and got it all worked.
Let me give them a shot. I think we have some remnants of the lime.
The lime bags.
Lime bags, and that's the white material is actually the lime to actually stiffen up the soil so we can get passage off the street and onto the build site.
And the only reason we had to do that was because we got rain.
We got rain, yeah.
This before we got this poured, so we had to take that step and get it stiffened up so our pump truck could get in and the concrete trucks could back up to it. So now that we've got our slab poured, we'll continue next finishing our actual construction drive. We're going to bring more dirt in, build it up higher than just the natural ground level.
Can you explain why that's important too?
Because if we just try and traverse this natural ground, if we get a lot of rain, it's just we're gonna bog down.
Right.
I can put crushed concrete right on top of it, but it's just gonna push down in there. So we like to build up a road bed with good stiff clay and then top it off with our crushed concrete, and that way we have something that's not going to be sitting in water and can get us up to the job site. We got a lot of materials that need to get delivered, trades that need to be able to get in, and we've been down the road before where we didn't put good construction
Oh yeah,
and paid the price. So.
Well, I can tell you, yes, that's definitely true.
Paid
So
the price in time.
in time, that's right. Time waits for no man, right? It keeps ticking. So I'm scanning, panning around the actual build site, and the first thing that kind of piqued my interest is what's going on right there.
Well, this is another thing that the buyer had already done in this case, which in most of our builds we would have to do. He's already had power brought into his site here by the power company at his own cost. And so that's good for us later on. We don't have to be dealing with power companies trying to get power for our house.
But that's a point that I like to point out, that when you're thinking about building a house, one of the things that we do on the front end in our site investigation meeting is help you connect with that power company so that you can get the infrastructure, or we together can get the infrastructure in place to have power ran to your build site into your home. So what this is massive.
Well, he's got plans of his own, so he's planning on building his own pole barn in the back there. And so he's had this brought in way before we got started, in anticipation of the fact that he was going to have power back there and power for his house. So
I'm assuming, Tracy, because there's no overhead power lines, that for this particular homeowner, he's going to go with underground.
Right. He's even running off of that over to the other side of the driveway here, which will be our eventual driveway.
Okay.
And he's actually running underground pipe over to here, so that when we do our house and tie our house in, all we got to do is come to this point here, make our connection.
Okay.
And we can pull our power all the way over to there. So.
Okay. All right.
We've been doing some thinking ahead.
We call that.
Some of our buyers do, and some of them don't have a clue.
and those that don't have a clue, that's what we're here for. Exactly. All right, so we're still talking about site preparation. So I see we have a nice clearing from the entryway all the way to the actual build site. Right.
He's going to have a nice little curved driveway, go up to the house, and then turn off to his pole barn.
Okay. So why don't you, this is massive soil that I'm looking at, Tracy. Can you give our viewers, those that are viewing now and those that will view this broadcast later, what's going on here?
Well, that's another thing. The reason that we meet is to discuss how high would you like your house to be. Every piece of property is going to be in or out of a floodplain. And we always have to contact our local counties wherever we're building and make sure what floodplain we're in, or if we're in one at all. And then based on that, we'll know how high we minimally have to go with the top of our slab. At that point, then it becomes a buyer preference. Do you want to stick with the minimum height, or do you have something else in mind? Well, this gentleman had something else in mind.
Okay.
He wanted his pad to be 3 feet higher than the natural ground.
I got you.
With our 1 foot form sitting on top of that. So we're in essence 4 feet higher than the natural ground. So, and that was totally his preference, and that just means we got to bring more dirt in to build the pad and expense.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, because they see the pad and they see the slab. He's getting ready to put the fan on. Let's kind of drop back a little bit. How is a pad built?
It's brought in. My dirt guy figures out how many loads of dirt he'll need, and then they start bringing in those loads. The dirt company brings them in. There's either going to be a tractor guy there or a bobcat guy there. In some cases, a bulldozer. Just depends on your trade that you're using to build the pad, what kind of equipment they have. But the thing is, the dirt's got to get knocked down. It's got to get rolled. It's got to be compacted.
And what is that reach for compaction? What's the target?
In terms of the moisture content in it, they want to be up in the high 90% range. How they actually do their compaction testing, I'm not sure on that one. We have a company that comes in that's just an engineering company once we've got the pad built that does all the compaction tests.
And that's a good point to know, because we leave that particular step in the process to the professionals, because we want them to let us know whether or not we're properly compacted. Exactly.
And a lot of that has to do with bringing in the right dirt in the first place.
Well, so what is the dirt you're talking about that's the right dirt for slab foundations?
Call a select fill, which is a mixture of sand and clay. That comes out of the pit actually mixes that up. So that's what we're going for, is a good select fill, not wet. And so that when it goes down, it compacts real good, it's dry, we get a good compaction test out of that. So
okay.
Get a lot of people that own property and they want to dig a pond, and they say, can't we just use the dirt from my pond and build my pad? No, you cannot. Well, you can, but we're not going to be responsible for that. So.
Well, so we've talked about. Thank you for that comment. And guys, I want to pause long enough to remind you that in your specific area, we build in 11 different states and we have 39 locations. So please go to our website, americashomeplace.com, punch in your zip code, and get the office information, and get in contact with either the building consultant, the general manager, or the project manager to start discussing the plans of your new forever home. So, Tracy, we've talked about driveway. We've talked about power. We've talked about pad. What else are some things that you have to factor when you're out here conducting your site investigation meeting? How about utilities and stuff like that? Where's the septic going? Because we're in a rural area in Alvin off a county road, so there are no city utilities. So where's the septic and things going on this particular job site?
That's always another question for the homeowner, because it is, where would you like it to go? And there are rules about how they have to be separated in terms of distance, but we always put our heads together on that one. I do recommend locations for them, but then it's ultimately up to them. On this particular buyer, because of what he's doing with a pole barn over here that he wants.
Let me zoom in real quick. That's the area which the homeowner is actually going to build his pole barn, which offsets the main house. Go ahead.
Since he's going to have a bathroom in there and we've got the house here, our septic system had to go in between the house and where his future pole barn.
Okay, so let me put my finger there, right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that he'll have connection for both to that septic system.
Okay.
And then with septic systems here, we do aerobic systems, so we don't put pipes in the ground and we don't have leach fields or any of that. Aerobic systems are just sprinkler system, pop-up heads. When the septic needs to relieve itself, the heads pop up and it relieves itself. So
yeah, the guy that I remember when aerobics first came out, when they discontinued the conventional systems, and the guy that was advertising the new aerated system said that the water's clean enough to drink. Unfortunately, when he smiled, he had no teeth, so I wasn't convinced that that was true.
Yeah, they say, but I'd have to be hard put to drink.
Yeah. Where's the well going?
Well, again, based on the separation we need to maintain, Normally, I'd say if the septic's on one side of the house, I'd put the well on the other side.
Well, as a general rule, they say at least 100 feet buffer zone.
Yeah, it's 50 feet if you've got an encased
Yes,
wellhead.
that's correct.
And
that's
all
correct.
these wells now are encased. So you can go 50 feet, and in this case, he's actually putting his well on the far side of his pole barn.
Okay, I got it.
So we've got more than 50 feet across
Sure.
there to where our septic system's going to be.
Well, and I hate to interrupt, but going back to well and septic, because in the counties in which we're building in most cases, you need at least 1 acre of land in order to accommodate a well and a septic. Now, some of those caveats are if there's public water. If you have community water, you can actually install an aerated aerobic system with less than an acre because there's water supplied to that area or to that property. So, okay, so the well's going over on the opposite side, the septic's on this side. All right, what else do you look at? I noticed we got a whole bunch of greenery, trees, Tracy. What's going on? What's some of the...
Any necessary lot clearing, and in this case, he actually did have a small oak tree over on the left side of where his pad area was that was a little too close.
Okay.
We really don't like any trees within 20 feet of the slab because they can grow up to be big trees.
Let me pan back so we can show our viewers what. How about that tree right there? Isn't that a beautiful tree?
Not from Texas. This is called a spreading oak.
I don't think they heard you. This is called a what, Tracy?
This is called a spreading oak, and they can be very massive and have some big limbs and overhangs, so you've got to stay far away from them. But that tree is several hundred years old.
Wow. Okay. So we've talked about access, driveways, culverts, electricity, utilities in terms of septic and water well. We talked about pad. How about shooting the grade on the initial? When you come out and you conduct your site investigation meeting, now there's always buyer preferences, but there are also regulations that we have to also conform to. So when you're out here and you got your transit out, what are you checking for in reference to that?
I'm always going to get shots of the four corners of the actual building box of the house.
Walk back up and show them.
As it's staked out on the property at the natural ground.
Okay.
I'm going to shoot all four corners of that building box. And then I'm going to go out to the center of the road and I'm going to take a shot out there.
Okay.
From the center of the road. Because the county's either going to tell me I got to be so many inches above the highest grade around the slab.
Okay.
Or in some cases, I got to be so many inches above the center of the road.
Okay.
In some cases, it's either or, whichever is highest.
Whichever is highest. Always the most extreme.
You got to call your county and find out what they're going to hold you to minimally. And then, like I said, we go from there. And then I give those numbers from my shots to my dirt guy and say, hey, I'm 10 inches lower here on the corner of my pad than the center of the road. We got to be 12 inches above the road. Do the calculation.
Well, and I want to pause right there again because there too, we're reaching out to the professionals to help us make the right decisions on your behalf. The foundation is probably the most critical component to any new home, and so we want to make sure that it's high enough and we're in compliance both with the federal guidelines as well as local municipal guidelines and regulations as well. Go ahead, Tracy.
Another thing to add to that is I always tell people, know your property. If you just bought the property and you don't know what it does in extreme wet conditions, like a recent hurricane, then ask your neighbors around and find out what this property did. Because you may be in a non-flood zone, but your property may hold water.
That's right. That's right.
You need to know what the history is. Find out. If you don't know, ask a neighbor. They'll be glad to tell you what it did. So
good. Well, this particular homeowner has cows. And during the form-up process and even the pad build process, there were cows kind of meandering around on the pad. But the homeowner actually came in and did what? I see some new fencing, I think.
Yeah, he came in and barbed wire fenced us off here, so the cows are staying out of our construction area now and not leaving us cow patties.
Well, and the reason why I brought that up is because folks with animals, you need to make sure that horses, bad dogs, mean dogs, rough dogs, little cats, we want to make sure that they're protected during the process as well. But that's something that you need to think about in that planning stage. And again, your project manager, your building consultant, your general manager at our locations can help you with those plans. All right, Tracy, we're kind of rounding down now, so is there anything else that we need to factor? Because typically a site investigation meeting takes you outside of the formality of shooting and staking the house. It takes you a couple hours to actually do an effective site investigation meeting. So am I missing something? We've talked about, again, driveways, entryways, pad work. We've talked about power, utilities, how we build a pad, what the purpose of a pump truck is, how it helps and aids in getting that slab poured quickly to prevent the concrete from setting up and things like that. And we've talked about tree distances. So is there anything else that we need to share with our viewers, those that are on viewing now and those that will view this broadcast later?
This area, then the other consideration is windstorm.
Okay.
And we need to talk about that because that's something else that we've got to consider what windstorm zone you're in. If you're down here in the Texas area and you're either coastal or inland 1 or inland 2 or outside of all that. So, because that's going to have to be factored into the cost of designing that slab, things that we're going to have to do frame-wise to build that house. So you need to be aware that if you are in a coastal or inland 1 zone, it is going to add a little extra cost for window panels, impact-resistant glass. If you're coastal, a lot of different things. So, but for us here in this area, that's a consideration every time is what windstorm zone we're in.
Well, let me throw another gotcha at you at this point because I see the sun setting, right? So part of that site investigation meeting too is how we actually acclimate the house, not just from an infrastructure standpoint with utilities, but how, I wouldn't say feng shui because that's not full feng shui, but where do you want the sun setting? Those kinds of things are also important. You see that sun setting right here, so we know that's our west, right?
I was on one the other night. You know, typically the houses are going to parallel the road frontage. Well, I was on a house the other night that they could care less about paralleling the road frontage. They had a view that they wanted, so they've got the house turned and looking at the pond that they have in the back of their property. So
right,
it's all where you want to go with it. Yeah, then you need to think about where's west and what's really getting hit hard with that west sun, and that's where sometimes we can give some advice. Maybe you want to turn it a little bit.
Yeah, to keep that
off this whole, because usually the front of the house and the back of the house are the most windows.
That's right.
If you can orient it to where the sides are west, those are minimal amount of windows on the sides of the house.
Negligible, right? Negligible.
So a consideration.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna give them a quick pick of what these guys are doing here. Obviously, we've just completed our slab pour. This is kind of a bonus. We were going to talk about site costs and land improvements today, but we're blessed with a slab. So what are they doing now?
Well, right now they've got their power trowel up on it, that machine, and they're just kind of knocking it down, smoothing it out, putting a nice little glaze finish on top of it. Actually starting to strip some of the forms and the stakes off the side. They've been at it since 7 o'clock this morning, so it's been a cool day and the concrete's not setting up real fast, so it's a long day when it comes fall and winter for these guys. So you get started early and you're still going into the afternoon. So.
All right, Tracy, as we kind of close this broadcast, I know we didn't have a lot of questions that come forth. This is really about educating you on what some of the site costs and some of the areas and land improvements are. If you have any questions, I encourage you to go to americashomeplace.com, punch in your zip code, get the information to your nearest location, and get on the horn with that building consultant, that sales coordinator, project manager, or general manager, and they'll be more than happy to field any questions that you have. Tracy, in closing, what would you share with a viewer, one of our viewers, and just the importance of that site investigation? I mean, just kind of in closing.
Just the main thing is getting that house where you want it. That's the main thing. That's what we really spend most of the time on. Really, both husband and wife need to be there.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
That route before, where we said it with the husband and the wife came back and said,
No, that's not what we want.
Both of them need to be there. We need everybody's input, and we need to make sure when we leave there, we're happy with where that house is staked out.
Okay, hey, you know what? I was just thinking about this because one of the things that people, when they first see the pad built and the forms laid, the first thing that most people say is, that house looks small.
Yep.
Can you tell the viewers why the house looks small on form boards?
I mean, you're staring at wood. The house goes through stages where it looks small and then all of a sudden looks big.
Like, whoa!
When you're just staring at form boards with nothing in them, you're just looking across to that one and going, that doesn't look too big. Once it gets made up and the beams are dug, the plastic's in, all the plumbing pipes are stacked up, then all of a sudden it seems like it's a little bigger. You see a little more stuff in there. You got something to judge by.
Yeah, there you go. I like that reference.
Then once that frame starts going up on there, all of a sudden it starts growing some more. Now you've got walls, and you can see spatially where everything is. So, and then once that sheetrock goes up, whoa!
Tracy, you are awesome. It's an honor and a blessing to work with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time today to help our viewers understand what site and land costs are and why it's needed, why they have to consider it and factor it. So thank you very much. I know you want to get back to you guys.
All right.
Thank you, Tracy.
Bye, y'all.
All right, guys. I'm closing this broadcast. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of sunny out here, so you probably won't see my face. Let me turn around this way. The time to build is now. I mean, you can continue putting off the inevitable, but if you're seriously interested in finding out what it takes to build, all the components that goes into a build, go to our website, americashomeplace.com, punch in your zip code, and get the information and make the call. Or even simply make an inquiry and request a floor plan booklet. I'm sure someone will get a hold of you relatively quickly. Again, as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for viewing this broadcast. Again, my name is Lowell Pennock. I'm at the Alvin location here in Texas, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care.